Hey, I'm Mark Tillison at Tillison Consulting, and in this Google Shopping video we're looking at Google Merchant Center diagnostics. Specifically in this one we're talking about promotional overlay images. So what does that mean? What causes promotional overlays? What causes that error to happen? And how do we fix those promotional overlays on those images and get our products approved and advertising correctly on Google Ads? So as usual, if you have other issues that we don't cover for Merchant Center, if you've got other diagnostic problems, please do comment and we'll try and help you out with that. If this video helps you, we'd really appreciate a like and follow for more videos on Google Merchant Center and e-commerce success online. So what does this promotional overlay image mean? So let's dive into Merchant Center. We can see a bunch of images we got here, but this one is the one we're looking at in this video, which is promotional overlay on image link. Okay, so let's look at these examples. What causes this to happen? Okay, so we've got 4 products with this particular problem, very similar. So if we head into the individual image, we can start to see, here's our issue, okay? So if we click on here, promotional overlay on image link, and then we can fix that by uploading a new image, okay? So what's Google's problem with this? Okay, so the problem is its crawler is picking up that there is some text on this image which is overlaid, it's sitting on top of the image itself. Now you and I know as humans that this is utterly ridiculous. This is just pointing out that this particular product has a locking system. Google just doesn't like this, okay? It's just gonna always get really upset with this. So it's not just saying, you know, it's tempting if you look at like eBay listings or products on Amazon that sometimes you'll see these overlaid text where it goes sale, 50% off, you know, these kind of things. That's the stuff that Google doesn't like in Google Shopping, and I agree with that. It looks awful if you see it in the Google Shopping results, in the search engine results pages. But in this case, actually, it's basically saying there's a feature of this to make it stand out, and I think that's okay. You can appeal these with Google support and they'll just give you the runaround. They just never get approved, okay, in my experience. So you might also have, I've seen this when there are pictures of products and the product has some text on it sometimes. I mean, literally the product that you've taken a photo of has some text on, and you can run into some issues with that. But this particular issue, effectively what's triggering it is this text sitting over the top of the image. So in this particular case, if we were to go and look at the product pages, there are 4 or 5 different images of this particular product at different angles, from the side, from the front, that don't have this locking system text over the top. So the solution to this is basically use an image that doesn't have this in it. If you had a picture of the padlock kind of zoomed out, that's fine, just don't use text. So that's the solution. How do we actually do that? Okay, so the first method, which is the absolute best method, is don't include this image URL in the feed in the first place, okay? And then you won't get this problem. If for some reason you cannot stop that happening, or you don't have an alternative image, then what you can do is you could take this image, you can go and run that through a photo editing piece of software, and then you could just basically blank over this, remove this, edit it, just take this bit of text out and leave some white space there instead. Upload that to your server and make a note of the image, make a note of that URL. Now ideally you want to include that in your output feed, and then that comes into Merchant Center and everything is fine and perfect and dandy and the product gets approved and everyone's happy. So that's the ideal method. If you can't do that, what you could then do is take this image, create a copy of it, do that editing and put that on another server somewhere, make a note of the URL, and then you can use a supplemental feed in Google Merchant Center effectively to overwrite the image URL that's coming from your feed, and then the supplemental feed says, no, for that ID, here is the image URL, and you use an alternate. It's starting to get a bit messy, okay? The other method you could do is you could do that manually in here by clicking this, and then you can just say upload a new image, and then you can give it the different URL if you want to, put it in there, or you could just drop the image in here. My problem with this is if you get issues in a month or 2 months or a year or 2 years down the line from here with this product, you're gonna, at the moment we're looking at and saying, well, where's the image coming from? Oh, it's coming from the feed, no problem. But now we're thinking, oh, it's coming from the feed. No, hang on, it's not coming from the feed, it's coming from, might be coming from a supplemental feed. Let me go and check that. Oh, actually, no, it might not be coming from a supplemental feed. Maybe it's coming from this manual override. So now we've got kind of 2 or 3 places where the image could be coming from. And that's why generally I would always recommend you should try and make the source data accurate in the first place. So just don't include images like this in your feed. Have it on your website by all means. There's no problem having it on your web page. Google doesn't have a problem with that. What it has a problem with is the image that you've submitted in the feed that you want to then show in the shopping results, and it just doesn't like it and it won't do it. So number 1, fix the data in your feed coming from your website. Don't use overlaid text. Number 2, you could just manually upload here if you really want to. Number 3, edit the image, host it somewhere and provide a separate one in here. Number 3, use a supplemental feed. There's a whole video on that on our channel, but if you use a supplemental feed, then you can then do pretty much the same thing here and overwrite that. My challenge with all of those methods is if you then change the output URL from your feed, remember that's coming from your website into Merchant Center, and then there's another step. So you fixed it here, step 1, but step 2 is now still using this old image. Who's going to look at that? Who's going to notice it? How are you going to notice that? Are you just magically going to look at Google search one day and go, hang on a minute, that's an old image. Why is that still showing? That's why I don't really like using these, like augmenting your data using these methods, because you will get into a false sense that the data coming from your website is what is showing on Google, and actually it isn't, because you're augmenting it, you're overwriting it, you're changing it with supplemental data. So a big challenge around that. So I'd just be really careful with that method. If you are having other issues with promotional text and images, please do comment. I'd love to hear from you. This stuff just fascinates me, but please subscribe for more videos on Google Merchant Center issues, and yeah, comment if you need some help.